Hi, everybody. Happy Monday. Welcome to our Power Apps training. Like Shannon said, Directions Training is a Microsoft training partner. We do all sorts of custom training on Microsoft products and beyond. So I'm going to jump right into doing some Power Apps here with you guys in just a moment. But before I do that, maybe we should get an understanding of what the heck Power Apps actually is, because there's a lot of power word usage in the Microsoft Office 365 world these days. So Power Apps is more than just the Power Apps builder. There's actually a little bit more to it. So why don't I start sharing my screen and we'll get going. I guess one more thing before I do start sharing my screen, let's just make sure that we have the ability to interact today, because me talking at you the whole time is going to be boring for you and super boring for me also. So I want you to have the ability to communicate with me. You guys can ask questions as we go. I've got kind of a loose idea of what I want to demo for you guys today, but if you have specific questions, I can input that into what we're doing today. So it's not just me showing you things, it's actually us working together on something. So in order to get that done, in order for you to communicate with me, since there's so many people in this session, don't unmute your microphone, just go ahead and keep yourself on mute. But just so y'all know, there is a chat or meeting chat inside of this Zoom meeting space. So if you need to, down at the bottom, you should see a little control panel and a button for chat. I'm going to say a quick hello all there. If you want to say a very quick hi back. Oops, you know, I said that to somebody privately. Sit tight for a second, everybody. Let's try this again. Hello all. If you want to say a very quick hi back, that way I know that you know where that chat is. Hello, Chelsea and Eric and Kristen and Lauren and Ingrid and Karen. Hi, guys. And Stephanie. Hello, everybody. Tyler and Glenn and Ryan. Hi, guys. Welcome. Welcome to the session. All right, so I'm going to start sharing my screen right now. If questions come up, type them in that chat box. I will be looking at it the whole time. And let's get going here. So stop recording, start sharing. It's going to come in here in just a second, guys. Takes just a moment or two for my screen to pop up. And I tell you what, let's use that meeting chat right now. If you can see my screen okay, it's going to be an Office 365 landing page here. If you can see that okay, just type the number 1 in the meeting chat, and that way I know you guys are good to go. Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Hardest thing we're going to do today is what we just did. So Power Apps. So the Power App family is what I want to start talking about first. This has to do with Office 365. So in order to use Power Apps, you need to have an Office 365 subscription. The Power Apps family is made up of Power Automate, Power Apps, and let's go and just expand this all to all apps, because you may not see all these apps right away. But there's a couple different Power Apps in the Power App family. The main one that we're going to be talking about is Power Apps, which is the Power App Builder, but you do have Power BI, Power Automate, and Power Apps. We did a session on Power Automate at some point within the last couple months. I don't remember the exact date on it, but Power Automate is a really cool application for setting up customized workflows. So for example, if you've ever wanted, let's just say that you get emails all the time and they have attachments, and you always take a minute and then you have to download the attachment and then you save it to your own OneDrive, and that's a lot of little steps. If there's something that you're doing all the time over and over again that requires you to manually do the action, that's what Power Automate is for. So you can actually set up a Power Automate workflow that when you get an email with an attachment that matches this specific criteria, you can tell it to move that attachment or copy that attachment over to your OneDrive and put it in a specific folder. So that's Power Automate. It's automatically making things happen for you. Power BI, and I'm not sure if we've done a session on this, but I feel like we have also fairly recently. Power BI is a visualization tool. So if you need to see your data visually and the Excel charts aren't cutting it, you can use Power BI. And Power BI makes really amazing displays of your data that are interactive, and you can make dashboards that you can share with people. Pretty awesome stuff. What we're talking about today mainly, though, is the Power Apps Builder. So we are actually going to be building applications that will allow our users to view data, edit and input data into a database, into a table. It could be something as simple as an Excel spreadsheet, to a SharePoint list, to a SQL database or SQL server or something like that. okay? So it's a really, really powerful tool for inputting data and viewing data. So I'm just gonna jump right into the Power Apps right here. It's gonna take its time because it's Monday, I get it, here we go. So starting out, we're just gonna talk about the interface. So in the interface of Power Apps, you're gonna first notice that I'm on the home screen or homepage. And you see it kind of just tells you a little bit about Power Apps here. Build business apps fast, which is exactly what it does. You could start from your data source if you want. You could just start from scratch. And we can build 3 different types of apps here. You can build a Canvas app from blank, meaning it's just gonna be a blank app that we can add things to and modify. We have model driven, which is more for analyzing your data. And then you have portal from blank. So, I mean, at some point we got to kind of talk about the licensing here, guys. The free license that everybody gets with their Office 365 subscription allows them to make basic Canvas apps that are internal only. So if you want to make like a client input form and you want people outside of your organization to be able to go to like a web page and fill out the form and have the data be submitted to whatever internal storage you're using, you would need to use like a portal from blank, and then you would need the extra licensing for it. Now, this is not a course on the licensing. You can just search Power Apps licensing and you can get all sorts of references and information on that on your own. Okay, but we're gonna be focusing on just making apps on the canvas, and I'll show you how Power Apps will automatically make your app for you. It's amazing. But I'll show you also how to manage them from scratch and customize them. Going down a little bit further on this homepage is a great resource for learning a little bit more about Power Apps. So this will be through learn.microsoft.com. They're okay. I've gone through a couple of these just to kind of see how they compare. And obviously, having a quick tutorial with an instructor where you can ask questions. Sometimes you get stuck on some of these. And I noticed that, if you're trying to use these for exam prep as well, there's a lot left on the sidelines that they don't really show you here. This will give you the basics to get you started for sure. But it's not going to be the all-in-one solution for you, but good place to kind of brush up and learn a little bit more. Scrolling down a little bit further, if you've already started making apps, your apps will be here. So I taught a full 2-day Power Apps class 2 weeks ago, and you can see that those are some of the apps that I made and some apps that people shared with me. Okay, cool. All right, so that's the homepage, or home screen, I guess, of Power Apps. Learn is just more about learning, guided learning. If you click on that, you can register for classes and probably sign up with Directions Training because we are a Microsoft training partner. Below that is your apps. So if you've already built apps, so see them here. You could create new apps up here. And then just going down a little bit further, create your data sources, right? You can connect to your data sources if you need to. You can connect to Microsoft flows that you might have set up and integrate those into Power Apps, add in chatbots, make AI apps, and more, guys. There's so much more we can do with this, okay? All right, I'd like to just start from data because I think that's probably the most powerful introduction into Power Apps. So let's just start out with the most basic form of data, which is an Excel spreadsheet. So I'm gonna go ahead and open this file up. It's not very exciting to look at, guys. It's got a product name, category, price. There is an image URL listed, so that images can be viewed if needed. And then it's got an overview of the products. So it's pretty simple data, not too complicated here. And it's in a simple form, which is an Excel spreadsheet. Now, if you intend to use an Excel spreadsheet with Power Apps, you need to do 2 things here to make this work for you. So first off, I launched this from my desktop. So this file is local to my computer only. That means if somebody else has a copy of that file, well, then they could have their own entries and edits in that. And also, guys, hold on, hit the brakes. It's 2020, guys. We don't store files locally anymore because that doesn't make sense. So we've already got a problem right here where if I have a file locally, I really can't use it in the cloud and nobody else can use it. So I'll really just be making an app for myself, which also doesn't make sense. So I need to get this guy in the cloud. To get it into the Microsoft Cloud, there are a couple different places we can store it in Office 365. I could store it in my OneDrive if I wanted, but a better solution would be to store it in a team or SharePoint team, you know what I mean, okay? SharePoint would probably be the best way to go, which is actually what your teams are built on anyways. So that would be the other solution. That would make the most sense. because files that are stored in SharePoint are accessible by groups of people automatically. Whereas if I store it in my OneDrive, well, then I've got to not only give people access to the app, but I've got to share the access to the data with those people. So again, we're kind of running into another pain in the butt there. So ideally, if I'm making an app for my organization, the file that I'm going to be basing the data off of, if it is a file, should be stored in SharePoint. That would really make the most sense. All right, here's the other thing that we need to do. Power Apps, including Power BI, so the Power Apps family, cannot use standard Excel data. So I'm calling this standard Excel data like somebody went to a cell and typed something in, okay? It can't use calculated columns very well, although you can make calculated columns, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But in order to get this so that I can use it in the Power Apps app, I need to turn this data into a table. Okay, so here's Microsoft using language incorrectly when we're talking about data. Any set of data is technically a table, right? That's how we would talk about it if we were talking about a database. But when we're talking about an Excel table, we're referring to the data being formatted using the Excel table format. How do I do that, Dan? Get to the point. All right, fine, settle down, guys. All you need to do is click somewhere in the data. Okay, once you click somewhere in the data, you go to the Insert tab and you click the Table button. As long as all of the data is in adjacent cells, meaning there is no empty columns or empty rows, it should automatically highlight all your data, which it did. Because remember, I started on one cell. I didn't actually highlight anything. So it was able to figure out all my data for me, and it wants to know if my data has headers, which it does. When I click OK, it now is using the Excel table format. How can I tell? Well, one easy way is that it formatted it. You have drop downs now, and you should see table tools at the top. So now this is in a usable format that Power Apps can use. Now, if I just save it to my PC, it's still not going to work very well. So I know that I want to get it into the cloud. So how do I get it into OneDrive? Well, guys, if you're in the Excel desktop app, and let me make sure I'm actually signed into the right account here, guys. I only have about 300 accounts that I use on this computer day to day. So let's just get signed in here. You won't have to do all this extra sign and stuff. It just needs to make sure I'm using the right account. There we go. Okay. So anyways, now when I'm in the Excel app, I could just go to File, Save As, save it right in my OneDrive. Okay, so I'm going to save it right here. Here's the folders in my OneDrive currently. This file is called Flooring Estimates. It's got the table in it. We're all good to go. Okay, so now it's saved in the cloud and autosave is on. Cool, so I know it's all good. I'm going to go ahead and X out of it. Now that it's saved to the cloud, this file that's on my computer is derelict. It is not connected in any way to the cloud file. So I'm going to drop that bad boy in the recycling bin because I know everything is safe in the cloud. And just to double check, I'm going to go to the OneDrive app here. And we'll just double check here to see, and it's right there. Okay. Now remember, ideally, I would want to put this in SharePoint. I'm just putting it in my OneDrive as a quick demo. Okay. All right. So now let's go to Power Apps. I am ready to make an app from an Excel Online file. So start from data, Excel Online. Once I click onto that, you'll see it's opening up the Power Apps canvas for me right now, guys. And then it's saying, hey, buddy, here's your OneDrive. Here's all the files. Which Excel file do you want? This guy right here. Then it's going to say, okay, now choose a table. Because we know that Excel spreadsheets can have multiple sheets. You might have 3 or 4 different tables. It's asking me which table do I want to use for my app. I want to use table 1. I didn't actually name it, so it's just called table 1. And then I'm going to click connect. And guys, watch this. I'm going to go to my kitchen. I'm going to go have a sandwich. It's not going to take that long. But I want to show you that this is actually going to do all the work for me. We're going to get this ready for you, Dan. Okay, cool. I'm going to go do my own thing. Takes maybe a minute at the absolute most, although this isn't a lot of data. So this is going to take probably 20 seconds, if even that. But what it's going to do is it's going to take all my data and it's going to build an app literally perfectly. Look at that, guys. Now, when it makes the app for you, it makes 3 screens. And I know we're in the Canvas app right now, so I need to walk you through what we're seeing here. You do have a little ribbon at the top. You've got a home tab, insert, view, and action. On the left-hand side, we're looking at what they call the tree view, although I think it's a little bit easier to think of this like layers. So there's 3 screens. Each screen is its own layer, and on each layer is its own content. I'll go through this in a little bit more detail here in just a second. But the 3 screens that it is produced for me is a browse screen where I can browse the products. Wait, hold on, guys. How amazing is this? Stop for a second and just think about that. It did it perfectly. I've got an image from the URL. It put the name of the file. Oh, actually, you know what? It's doing it by the type. So I might change that up. And then it's got all the names and the descriptions, and it's ready to go. It's amazing. Here's the detail screen. So once I select a product, this is what the detail page is going to look at like. So it's going to show me all that info. And then if I decide I want to edit it, it did give me a button to edit, and I'll be able to fill out the form fields for it. So guys, the Power App that you're building, just to kind of simplify this, you're really designing an app that displays list information or database information to you, allows you to enter more data or edit existing data, as well as potentially delete data if you wanted to. So it's really a tool for viewing and adding, editing content within a list or database. Okay, that's it. That's the magic behind it, guys. You're not making an app that will tell you how many miles you just jogged. Okay, that's not what we're doing here. This is for our data that is in Office 365. Okay, cool. All right, so those are my 3 screens. Now, this app that we're in, or this screen that we're looking at, is the Canvas app. So this is where we can actually make changes to it. Like if I wanted, you know, the image to be a different size, if I wanted it to have a different heading or whatever, I could do that here. Okay. Let's take a quick preview of what the actual app would look like, because really the app is done. I can just start using it right now. So I'm going to start from the browse screen, and in the upper right hand corner, I've got a bunch of different tools. Yes, you do have an undo and a redo button. Thank God for those. But you do have a preview this app button. And when you click that, this is exactly what this is going to look like. So this was designed for mobile apps. You can see it kind of looks like a mobile phone screen here, right? And I'm going to go ahead and click on one of these products. And when I do, it tells me all about that product. And then if I want to edit it, I can click the pencil. And there I go. I can make changes to it if I need to. Okay, cool. All right, and then when I'm done, I can submit those changes. So that's what it did for me automatically. Now I'm noticing that it used the generic table name that I had in my table. So I might want to change that. So the app has a little bit more meaning. But other than that, I'm pretty happy with the way that this app looks. Right? Pretty cool stuff. All right, let me close out of this preview and we'll go back to editing. All right, so let's take a look at managing and modifying properties of the content. So on the left-hand side, you can see basically where this item is in relation to the content on the layer, right? So here's my browse gallery content, and then I have my rectangle, which is the top rectangle. They added a search box and a search icon. So you can see as I'm kind of clicking through here, it's selecting the specific element that I am looking for. There we go. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and change that label name because table 1 doesn't make any sense. So if you notice at the top, it does automatically say table 1, but I want you to actually take a look on the right-hand side for a moment. Every element that you select in your app has properties for it based on what it is. So this is a label, and the label has these properties: text, font that's being used, font size, font weight, style, alignment, height, line height, overflow, display mode, and more. And this is, guys, a lot of this stuff, you can see there's a lot in here, is a little bit beyond what we're going to obviously be able to cover in this webinar. But I encourage you, if this is something that's really interesting to you, I'd recommend that you sign up for one of the courses because it is absolutely worthwhile. Just to give you an idea of what I did in the last course, we made a translator app so you could type in whatever language you want and click translate and it would translate to another language, which is pretty cool. We made a barcode scanner app. We made a, what else did we make? We made a ton of just really cool apps, guys. We made one for products that were action figures that was kind of fun. So you could find the action figure, you can insert new ones and all sorts of cool stuff, guys. So I would highly recommend you check that out. But there's all your properties here basically for the format of this particular item. So how much space above, below, left, and right, and all that other stuff. There is also an advanced properties over here. This is where you can start using functions. So I could actually make this a clickable button that does something. just by coming in here and saying on select, I want to do something with this, like navigate, right? And you can see it starts to populate this for me as I go, and then I can hit enter and I can tell it where to navigate to, right? See how cool this is, guys? This is awesome stuff. Anyways, let me change the properties of it because I don't want it to say table 1 because I think that's dumb. That doesn't mean anything to me. So I'm gonna call this flooring app. Okay, I don't know, for lack of a better word right now. So there it is. I'll hit enter and now it's updated. Okay, and let's check the other screens here. This one still says table 1 because each one has its own label. So what I may want to do is maybe just delete this one. Yeah, I'll delete that element from there, and then I'll go to the edit screen and I'll click the table there, and I'll delete that guy. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back. I'm going to copy this one, and your keyboard shortcuts work, guys. I don't know if right-clicking works. Right-clicking does work. Okay, cool. So I can copy that, and then I can go to my other screens, and I can just paste those guys on there. Oh, so you wanted to do it out of position here, didn't you, you jerk? That's all right. You can move it. It should be the same size. And as a matter of fact, if you want to be super OCD like I am, oh, you know what? Because there's a button over there. That's why I couldn't paste it, guys. There's a little back button. That's okay. I'm going to copy this one then. And then I'm going to go to the last screen here. And I'm going to paste it. And if there's enough room, oh, it did it on that one too. Not a big deal. We can just move it. It's not the end of the world, guys. And if I really wanted to, guys, just so you know, I could come to position here. Notice that the X position is 88 and Y is 0. So if I go back to this guy and I click, we should see, oh, see, it's a little bit different. 88 and 0. Now I feel better. I'm sure you do too. Okay. Is it me or do I not see what you're doing? Okay, so somebody had the question here, kind of a concern. They're not able to see my screen. Are you guys okay? Are you seeing like a multiple tile floor here thing? Just say yes if you are. Okay, you can see it. Yes, you can. All right, so if anybody's having trouble seeing my screen, it's not me, it's you. I'm sorry, but you might have to just do a little troubleshoot. You can always sign back out and come back in. I believe this is being recorded as well, so you can most likely get a copy. If you message our sales at Directions Training and ask them very nicely, I'm sure they can get you a copy of this particular webinar. All right, guys. So we just did a tiny, tiny bit of editing to the app that it made for us from scratch. Okay. All right. So let's make a new app. Okay. So I'm going to save this one. You do have to save it, guys. It's important. So I'm going to go down to save. Okay, it's got my name, app. It's just called it app right now, which is not that great. So I'm going to call this one Dan's Flooring App. There might already be one in there, but that's all right. And then I'm going to hit save at the bottom. Cool. So now I can get back to it if I need to. Guys, if you do not save your app and you navigate away, okay, and then it's allowing me to share if I need to, it does automatically version when you hit the save button, just so you know as well. It does not auto save like the Office web apps do, so just be aware of that, okay? So for instance, if I were to make a change here, right, and now I go to close out of this tab, it's gonna say, whoa, hit the brakes here, friend. Do you wanna save what you did? And if you just say leave and you didn't hit the save button, you just lost what you did. That last couple steps or whatever. So get in the habit of saving it, excuse me. It doesn't auto-save for you. That's my one and only warning for you guys. All right, so let's make a new Power App. This time, I'm gonna go to SharePoint. Now, I could make a document library here. I already have a document library. I could upload the Excel spreadsheet here if I wanted to, but I'm gonna use the power of SharePoint. I'm gonna make a SharePoint list, and then I'm gonna connect my SharePoint list to the app. Okay, so let's just kind of go through that. That will allow you to see how you can build an app from scratch. So what I'm going to do here, guys, is I'm going to go in SharePoint, the SharePoint site. I'm going to create a new list from scratch. Okay, and I'm going to call this one, I don't know, maybe we have like task tracking, or maybe we want to do like a thing that people can request time off, or I don't know. I mean, whatever you need a list for. A calendar can be a list. And if I make a list that has the correct columns and I connect it to the app, well, then people can fill out that calendar from here, essentially. Heck, why don't we do that? I don't think I've done a calendar with Power Apps, so maybe let's just see what that looks like. Or a task app. Yeah, so I'm not going to make this list from scratch. This seems crazy. I don't have any existing lists, and I'm not going to build it from Excel. So what we're going to do instead is I'm going to go to add an app, and I'm going to add in just like the basic task list. So there's a calendar, tasks. Okay, I'm going to call this Dan's Team Tasks. And I'm going to hit create. And then we're going to go to it. Okay, so let's get an idea of what's here. When I want a new task created, I have a task name field, start date, due date, and a space that I can assign it to people. There is a % complete description, predecessors column, priority column, and task status. Okay, let's make an app out of that. So I'm gonna go to Power Apps. I'm gonna create this one from blank though. And I'm gonna call this one Dan's Team Tasks. Okay, now take a look here, guys. What format do you want to use? Phone, which is the skinny guy, or tablet? They do have a little bit of scaling built into them. So, you know, if you make a phone app and you put it on a tablet, you can still view it, right? That's kind of the idea. And you can even go in and really, really like do some stuff to it to make it so it is adaptable to screens. But this is really designed to be quick apps that can be accessed by people in the field. I mean, that's cool. Like, here's another one we did. We did an estimate app where like a technician could go out to a customer's location, get an estimate, and set up an estimate right inside of the app. So they get the client's name, their address, and info, and then they put in the details about the space and what products they're going to need and whatever, and then they get an actual estimate of what the cost will be to do all that, right? So there's some amazing things you can do with this. I'm just trying to keep this kind of a little bit more simple for what we're doing right now. So I'm going to click create. It's going to create it. This is going to be blank because we're going to make it from scratch. I might do some basic properties with you guys first just to kind of show you how to do that. Okay, cool. All right, guys. Here's my blank app. Now take a look. It says add an item from the insert panel or just go right into connecting your data. So I haven't connected my data yet. I didn't say start from SharePoint. I just said, hey, give me an app. All right. It gave me screen 1, which is going to be the list, I guess. So I'm going to rename this by clicking the 3 dots. I'm going to rename this one the item list screen. So just call it item list. I did an underscore, although it's not really necessary, to be perfectly honest with you. It's just kind of the way I prefer to do things. All right, so that's my item list page. And then I can click the 3 dots here, and I can make duplicates of this page if I want to, or whatever else I need to. But let's just start out by setting up this page. So I'm gonna go right to my insert tab. This is where I have all sorts of elements. Yeah, I can make new screens from here, right? Look at that. They've got all sorts of different screens ready to go here. Why don't we do we're gonna do a super simple app, and then I'll connect it to the SharePoint. So I'm gonna let's do a success page. You can see it already set it up for me, right? So I'm gonna go with this, and I'm gonna go ahead and rename this one as good job. Okay, cool. All right, and then we're gonna link to it. But let's get into properties, let's get into formatting, let's figure some things out here, okay? So I wanna change the way this whole page looks. So I've got the page selected, okay? If you take a look up top, this is giving me the current color of the page. Now, what you're seeing here, guys, is the RGB values, red, blue, green, and the alpha, which is the transparency level, okay? I know you're thinking, like, how the heck am I gonna know what number to even put up there, Dan? Well, if you take a look over here in the properties panel, which is really where I work most often, there's a paint bucket. And when you click the paint bucket, they've got all sorts of, theme colors and standard colors for you. You can even do the color mix here. So take a look, if I go like all red, 255 means full red, give me no blue and no green, or no green and no blue. You know what I mean. And if I set this to 0, for instance, that's going to make it transparent. So that's why I turned off. I think you can do percents here. I can't remember off the top of my head. Give me a 50%er here. Yeah, there you go. See how it's a little bit more faded? So it'd actually be see-through if I had another element behind it. Anyways, let's go back to 1. Okay. And then take a guess, guys. If I add a little blue to it, what color are we going to get? Well, let's do 155 blue. And now we're getting kind of a pink or a purple. Let's do 200. There you go. You guys can play around with that on your own. It's much easier, obviously, to click the paint bucket and choose a color. Oh, and it's mad at me right now, guys. Look at this. It's saying, hey, you broke me. And then I can say, edit in the formula bar. I am missing a value there. So it's kind of nice that it warns you as it goes. Another cool thing here is there is a checker. So yeah, if you see red X's, that's obviously a problem. And if you're not sure what the red X is referring to, if you come up here, there's a little health checker you can click, and it'll say, we're checking things out here, and we've got some issues with some formulas. Okay, and it's telling me on the good job page, there's an issue with the fill values. Okay, cool. Anyways, let's update that. All right, I don't like the red page, guys. That's not what I was going for. I kind of like green. That might be kind of good for good job, buddy. All right, I like that. Let's change this guy. So I'm clicking on this little icon. Look at the properties I have for this. So the icon is a check. Look, you got all sorts of different icons there. Okay. I got color values. So the color of the actual item itself is white. So I'm gonna leave that alone. Border, I think, is just gonna be the border of the check. We'll see if it'll even let me. Well, let's zoom in here. All right. I don't think we get a border. Oh, the border value is at 0. Let's set it to 1. Yeah, so the border is actually of the box. I don't want that at all. That's terrible. So I'm going to set that back to 0. So you guys are going to have to play around with this a little bit. Disable. These colors have to do with hovering over it. So it has nothing actually to do with the circle. It's more or less affecting just the check mark. And here's why, guys. Take a look at what I have here in my, again, this is the tree view, but I call it the layers because it helps make sense. Each page is a layer. Here's the items on the layer. I have the item checked, so the little icon selected first. If I delete this real quick, actually, you know, I'm gonna move it below. So I'm gonna take this circle and drag it up. You should be able to just drag it. Well, you can also do this guy. I can say reorder, move up. So I'm gonna say bring forward. All right, take a look. So the problem was that the circle was behind it, so I couldn't get a grip on it, basically. So let's change the circle color to white. There we go. And then I can move it back down if I want. So I say reorder, and I can say send to back. Okay. And did I leave the color of the icon? Yeah, let's change that to green then. Oh, what? Did I have the wrong item selected? Guys, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just making this up as we go. So you got to make sure you have the right item selected. So this is the circle. That's the check. So I definitely have it now. So now I should be able to set that to green. I don't know why it's taking. Oh, because I might not be able to change the color of the icon. Yeah, because it's doing the fill color. It's not actually changing the color of the icon. All right, so I would need a little Photoshop here for my icon. It looks like the icon can only ever be white. That's a bummer. That's okay. Anyways. I'm getting distracted here, guys, because I'm just getting so excited about what we can do with this. So let's go ahead and set this back so I can see it in the view. I'm using my zoom controls down here. I think this looks okay, although I'll probably make that a little bit bigger. And you see everything's trying to adapt to fill the space. That's great. So I'm going to do it just like that. Perfect. Okay, so all I want is a button that takes me to the good job page. So how do I do that? Go to insert, add a button. Okay, here's my button. It's just called button. Okay. There we go. And then properties on the right-hand side. So I'm going to say, did it work? Okay, so that's going to be the button. Okay, and then I'll do a little bit more with the properties on this. So you can see your size, your position. The padding is the space above, below, left, and right. Like if you had a padded wall, like, you know what I mean? You'd be further away from the wall the more padding you had. Going down a little bit further, color of the text, color of the button, color of the border. So here's your text color. Here's your little button color. There you go. Let's use the same green. Okay, going down a little bit further. And this is where it gets really cool, guys. Disabled color, pressed color, hover color. Okay, so when I hover over it, I want to change the fill of the thing. It's already set to blue for whatever reason. But if I click on that, you can see I've got the color values up here. Now, the bummer part about this is because we're doing a little bit more complex stuff now, I can't just use a color picker. I've got to actually set up my color. So what is a good option for that? How do I learn what these colors are? Well, guys, I use Photoshop, so that makes it easy for me. If you are doing web-based, you can say RGB Color Picker. Do that. Let's just do a little web search here. You can use Microsoft Paint, guys, the OG. All right, let's take a look here. So it's got a bunch of different colors here. You can kind of pick one. You can see it gives you the RGB value. Cool, I can use that. This is just one I randomly pick, guys. I have no sponsorship from these. These guys do not give me any money for their website that you're using. Anyway, so that's a hexadecimal value, which I use for websites. So let me grab the RGB value. So notice it's 12, 25, 230. So I'll go ahead and click that. I think that copies it to the clipboard. If not, I'll try to remember that. 12, 215, 230. All right, let's see if it works. Paste. Yeah, it worked. Okay, so you need to get rid of this RGB thing because you're going to use the function here. And then don't forget, we need the additional argument for alpha. And now it should work. Okay, so I've still got an error here. Color fade. Oh, it's because it's got a color fade property to it, which I don't need. All right, so that's what I'm looking for. Okay, cool. All right, guys, let's just test this out. Oh, you know what? It's not going to go anywhere yet, but we can test the hover. Let's hit play. When I hover over the button, oh, look at that, guys. It changes, but it doesn't do anything yet. So you got an on click also. You guys can see that. I didn't change that at all, but it looks pretty good. All right, so let's cancel out of that. And now we've got to set up the properties so that we can navigate. So I'm going to click on this here. Once I've selected it, I need this to do something. Now, these properties here are just visual properties. I need to go to advanced. This is where we can do cool stuff. So action on select. So when I click on it, do what? False means nothing. Don't do anything. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and change that false property. So let me clear this out. And then I can type navigate. Now, before I do that, guys, take a look here as well. When you select an element, if you click this drop down, you have all of the properties here as well. Okay. So essentially what I'm doing over here in the properties panel on the right is affecting the formula bar at the top for the specific property. So I could look for on select in here. So I'm going to go through for on select. There it is. And then once I click, I can come in the formula bar and tell it what to do. Navigate. Press the down arrow one time to highlight the navigate formula. Notice it tells you about it. Then I can hit enter. Okay. And then it's showing me my two pages, the good job page or the item list page. So again, I can arrow down one time. You guys can't really see that. Hit the enter key to load that in there. And then even if I want, I can put a comma and I can tell it what type of screen transition to do. Let's do a fade. Why not? Close your parenthesis because that's how we do formulas. And we're good to go. All right, should we test it out? I think so. Play, hover, click. Yay. Exciting stuff, guys. Okay, so now we understand properties a little bit better. Now I'm going to make this actually work. Okay, so I'm going to make a much better looking, I'm going to get rid of this page because I don't need it. I'm going to make an actual app now based off of that SharePoint list. Okay, and then guys, I'll open it up to any other questions you have and then we'll pretty much wrap up from there. So let's get this list created. I know I probably want to do a little shape at the top. I like that little rectangle thing they had that kind of made the app look cool. So I'm going to go to icons. Icons have all sorts of buttons here, guys. So I'm going to go down. If you go down towards the bottom, this is where you'll have the actual like normal shapes, primary shapes. So let's get a rectangle up here. Okay, I'm going to duplicate that so you can copy paste it. Move that down to the bottom. Okay, cool. So now I've got that set up. I probably want to do a label, so I'll pop a label out. And I'm going to go ahead and call this one, so I'm going to go back to properties here. I'm going to call this one Dan's Teams Tasks. Okay, and obviously I could format it. I'm going to do some very quick formatting here, guys. I'll make it bold. I will change the color of it to white. There we go. And I might make it just a tiny bit bigger. Okay, and then I'm going to move it. Now you can see it does have smart guides, so that does help you kind of align things, which is nice. Okay, as a matter of fact, I'm going to scale that down a little bit, and then I'm going to move it a little bit further away. There we go. So it's centered. Okay, cool. All right. Now I want to add in the lists, the items that are on there, the current tasks. So to do that, I'm going to click to add a gallery. And when I do that, you've got all sorts of different gallery views here. Blank, vertical, horizontal, flexible. I'm going to go with vertical. I think that looks really nice. It's going to insert it for me automatically. Notice it's giving me a whole bunch of placeholder text here because I haven't connected it to any data yet. Okay, we'll do that in just a minute. But this thing's all set to go. Maybe I want to change this layout because I don't know if I really even want the sample image. It seems a little unnecessary. So let me click back onto this here. There we go. And then, gotta remember, there's a little quick screen. I think you can do it actually over here in the properties where you can choose data source layout. Yeah, I want to change the layout. I like the list, but I don't really have images, so I'm just going to get rid of those. There we go. So that's what mine's going to look like basically here in just a minute. Oh, you know what? I didn't even add any items to this task list. So let me just add one item so we can see that come through. So I'm going to call this one order software. There we go. I'll put a start date. I'll say that it could have been started at the beginning of the month and it is due tomorrow. And then I can assign it to names. I don't even remember who I have in here. So let me just start typing some random letters. Nope. It's my other guy, Dan. All right, I'm gonna add it for him, and then I can fill out the rest of these details just real quick here. 25 in progress. Okay, so now I've got something on that list. Okay, cool. All right, so let's go back to our Power App, and let me show you how easy this is to connect to the data. You can do it actually in a ton of different ways. Data source over here, and then I can go to connectors, and I can connect to SharePoint. Right, so that'll be in this list right there. You can click the little pencil doodad when you select you got to select the box. There we go. Click the little pencil right there. Then I can go to connectors, and you can even just go on the left-hand side to connectors. Right, so like 20 different ways to do the same thing. Very Microsoft, right? So I'm going to say add a connection to SharePoint, connect directly to the cloud services, or do you have an on-premise gateway? I'm going to connect directly to the Office 365 cloud. It's going to say, all right, here are all the sites that you have access to. Just takes a second. There we go. And what site did we put it in? James, no, this is in the Dan Griffin site. Okay. So let's go to the Dan Griffin site. Okay, and then it's going to show all the lists and libraries. Do I not have, here's my document library, my inventory list, but where is my other list? Let's go back for 1 second here, guys. I'm kind of worried that it's not the right one because there's so many that are so similar. All right, what is this one called? I called it team tasks or something like that. So let me just make sure I've got it. Oh, probably because it's not in the navigation. That's why I had a hard time finding it. Let me change that real quick, but I'll also just copy the address so we know what it is. Sit tight, guys. Always an extra step. All right, let's try this one more time. If that doesn't do it, I'll have to put in the name manually. And we'll see if it works. No, it didn't work. Well, here's my inventory. That's all right. So, Dan, come on. There we go. Let's see if we can find it this way. Here, problem adding your data source. Please try again later. All right, I'm going to save it and close it. We'll try that one more time. If not, I'll have to get this figured out. Sometimes the lists do take a minute to populate. It shouldn't take too long, but I can use a different list that I already have, like one of those other ones that came up. So I'm going to save this real quick. Dan's team's tasks. Let me save my app. I'll try connecting it one more time. If that doesn't work, I can use a different app that I already have in there, or a different list. Okay, so let's go to, we can do connectors here as well. Connections. Okay, I do have my SharePoint. Dan Griffin SharePoint, Dan Griffin SharePoint. Try this one more time. All right, well, I'm gonna do it through the app now. Okay, I think it should be good to go. So I'm going back here. Let's try this one more time. And we'll go to activities accounts. Let's go down to SharePoint again. I don't know what the difference is between these two. Should be the same one. All right, so we're gonna try that. It's just not populating. That makes me so sad, guys. They actually have it written where it can take up to 24 hours. So I was not counting on that because it usually doesn't take that long. Let's see if that does anything different. Yeah, okay. So I'll show you what the inventory list looks like because this list is just not going to do it today. Here's what the inventory list looks like. It's got items, quantity in stock, price per item. So that's the only columns that I actually have in there. Let's take a look at what it looks like when you fill this out in SharePoint. So item name, price, quantity in stock, and whatever. Okay, so that's all this is. It's just a really simple form. So we'll go to Power Apps and we'll just connect it to that data because I have it accessible already. So I'll hit connect and you'll see it takes a second here, but it'll connect it. It's doing its thing, doing its thing. There you go, guys. So now I have it. Okay, great. All right, so now the next thing I want to do is I want to set up a page where we can view the details of the item. So to do that, we're going to go to New Screen, Blank, Scrollable, List, Tutorial, Success, Form, and so on. All right, so I'm going to go with Blank. I'm going to borrow those other elements, though. So I'm just going to copy some of these here. So copy this. Oh, you know what I should have done? I should have done this the smart way, guys. Let's delete that. I'm going to duplicate this page. There we go. So duplicate screen. And all I'm going to do here is I'm going to get rid of this guy. And in place, I'm going to put input, not input, data table. I want a data table or a form here. Yeah, form display. Okay. All right. And I'm going to move this down. It should just connect to my data because it should be the same data. Here we go, connect to the inventory. Yeah, this is just acting strange. Guys, I have a trial account. That's basically what this is, but it should all just work. I mean, you saw when we created the app from scratch, it just did it. So it should automatically, since I've already connected this in, I should be able to just use that field. So I'm gonna go to data source over here, see if I can use my inventory. There we go. It was just being finicky over there on the left-hand side. All right, so when I select an item, it'll show the title, price per item, and the quantity in stock. All right, we can do a quick test drive on that. So I'm gonna go back to my little tree view layers panel here. I'm gonna go back to the original page, which is item list. Oh, and you know what, let me update the name of this. So I'm gonna rename this one item details. If you do change the name on the fly, it will update all your links for you automatically. So you don't really have to worry too much about it. All right, so let's test this out. There we go. It should automatically be set up. So when I click, it should take me to the page. If not, we'll get that programmed real quick. All right, so the button's not doing the action. Not a big deal. That's why we test things. So let me click on the action button and make sure that it has an advanced option on click, select parent. Okay, well, it should navigate to, let's see. All right, let's try this one more time. All right, let's go play, click. Okay, so we'll get it to navigate to the right page. Click, not navigate to parent, so we'll clear that out. Navigate to the item details. Perfect. Okay, cool. All right, again, test it one more time real quick. There it is. No pizza cutter. All right, so we got to get it to navigate to the correct thing here. Item details. Yeah, it should just navigate to its item. So navigate to item details. Item list, item details. Item list is the first page. So it should just go to, let's do parent. Okay. And we'll, if this doesn't work, if it's just being too finicky, I'll go ahead and just make the app off of this because it'll just kind of do the work for us. And we'll kind of view what I was trying to show you versus what it's trying to do here. And I'll just show you it's acting a little buggy right now. But let's try this one more time here. Let's try one of these other buttons. Not working. Click on an item. Nope, not a big deal. All right, so just for the sake of time here, guys, I'm gonna say using my SharePoint list. It's gonna make a Power App built off the same SharePoint list. So So here it is. There's the site. There's the list. Connect. It's going to look identical. It'll probably try to put the pictures in there, but we'll see. There we go. Okay, so that's all the same stuff, guys. Click the button. Okay, well, the action should be on click. Oh, let's go back. Browse screen. Yeah, see guys, that's exactly what we were trying to do. On select parent. Okay, so let's just play this page. See, I don't know why I was acting weird, guys. That is why we test things, but also you can see that if you just have it do it for you, it kicks butt. It does it for you very easily. Then all you got to do is customize a couple things. If you are building some apps from scratch, well then yeah, you're gonna have to spend some time testing and getting things figured out, right, on your own. Got a refresh icon. They got a button for new. When you click new, it takes you to the new form, edit form. Perfect. So you can get an idea here. All right, guys, so at this point, you definitely have enough to get started with Power Apps. You have a basic understanding that all actions are done through formulas, and formulas can be done through the properties panel on the right-hand side through advanced or through the formula bar at the top. You also know how to add elements by going to the insert tab, control the properties for them. You have the basic understanding of screens. So you have enough there to be dangerous to go out there this week and try bringing in your Excel data and just kind of play around with it. That's the best way to get going with Power Apps. All right, guys, we do have about 5 minutes left. I'm gonna see if anybody has any questions left. If you don't have any other questions, I think Shannon has a couple more things for you. Please explain common data service. Common data service, so if I go to connect here, let's see if it's not in this list, let's go back. Common data services are common data services. So let's connections, we'll let this pop up here. But guys, if you do have other questions, go ahead and type them in there. Those are columns, is someone I'm looking for. Option sets, connections. It should be under maybe custom connections. No, not gateway. It should just be right here. So let's see if I can just create a connection. So common data services would be other online data services. SQL database. So common data service provides access to the environment databases on the Microsoft Common Data Service. We'll pop that open. I won't be able to use it. You can see some of these are premium. That's what the little diamond was on that last screen. So common data connectors, Azure databases, basically things that are hosted on the Microsoft network that might be a part of your Office 365 tenant. How do you get app to people's phones? To get the app to people's phones, when you're ready to publish your app, you go to File. Okay, you got to save it, obviously, and then you can share it. And then once you go to Share, okay, so they can go through the Power Apps app on their phone, and if they sign in with their organization sign-in, they'll have access to all the apps that are published. That's one way. If you have a premium Power App subscription, you can actually push them to websites, so they can actually do it through a web page or a custom-built app landing page if you wanted to. But basically, you have to share them with the people. You can say share with everybody in the organization if I wanted to. So I don't know why this one was acting strange here. Let me get out of this one. Share. Okay, and then I can type the name. I can type everyone. I want to share with everybody in the organization. Okay, and there we go. I can click share. And now it's shared with everybody in my organization. So if they have the Power Apps app on their phone, they can then get to this app when they sign in with their account. Okay. But again, if you wanted to publish it any other way, that kind of gets tricky. And then we get into like premium licenses and things like that. To request a recording, just reach out to sales@directionstraining.com. Sales@directions. And I have a little PowerPoint for you guys to look at as well. I'll put this in the chat though. Sales@directionstraining.com. Let's copy that. I will put that out there for everybody. And let me just pop up the PowerPoint that we have here to wrap this up. Now, obviously, guys, like I mentioned, there's a lot to Power Apps. Power Apps is a 2-day course that we offer. Although, depending on your organization, you can customize the training. Maybe you want to do a 1-hour or 90-minute Power Apps session to get your users up to speed with Power Apps. We can definitely do that for you. So let's get our little PowerPoints up here. Shannon had, here's just info about Office 365. But here's the offer for you guys for attending this webinar, 25% off any Microsoft technical class, including Power Apps. Okay, and then you just contact sales@directionstraining.com to redeem. Let them know you were a part of this specific webinar on this date, and they will get you set up. Keep in mind, this does expire at the end of July, just so you all know. Okay, oh, and it comes with a gift card. Shannon, I don't know if you want to jump in and give us any more information about that, or if that would be enough. Shannon's just probably so excited about Power Apps, she's running around her house screaming with excitement. I understand. All right, guys, so that really is the content I have for you. That's the little offer that they have for you as well. Hopefully you enjoyed the Power Apps session that we had. Again, this was just to introduce you to some of the concepts, but my goal was to hopefully get you confident enough to try it on your own a little bit, okay? Hopefully we will see you in a Power Apps course coming up soon. Thank you all very much for attending this webinar today. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks, everybody.